I have my own production company. I am pulling together projects, packaging them, delivering them to studios to try to get them landed there. I'm also overseeing a Spanish animation visual effects company in Madrid and helping them to be as great as they can be. I'm one of those people who at a very, very young age thought this is what I was going to do. Not this, right? This is you could know the industry you want to be in, but have no clue what you want to do in that industry. And that was me. I knew I wanted to work in the entertainment industry. I knew I wanted to somehow land somewhere that utilized, my skill set. I didn't even know what my skill set was, but so, I methodically went through it. I went to film school at UCLA. I came out, I started in post-production. I did sound effects, then I did picture. Then I decided I didn't want to be, behind the scenes. I wanted to be, or I should say at the end of the movie, I wanted to be on set. So then I started doing live action and I worked myself up from PA to producer. And then, I found myself saying, why am I working so hard to make other people's work? And so I spent a bunch of time because, you as a producer, you spend years, developing other people's projects. So, you don't normally even like the projects you're doing. You kind of, you kind of look at something and you go, oh, I see this can have legs. I bet I could sell this. And so you attach yourself onto something. It took me years to realize, wait a minute, if you're going to spend your life doing something, pick the things that you really feel passionate about. And that's what I was doing. And then for a lot of personal reasons, I ended up back on the East Coast. And then I landed at Blue Sky. And then Disney bought Blue Sky. And so I unlanded at Blue Sky. And then, and then I started doing what I described earlier. Well, we have to define, which we discovered in our conversation, right? So we have to define what age, right? So is it a kid's book that is, the Harry Potter kids book, or is it a toddler book that is, something that you would have that you could read to them before they go to sleep? So if it's a kid's book like a Harry Potter's book, there's definitely a lot there to work with, and you could probably get some nice complex storylines and a lot of detail into your stuff. But essentially all you wanted to do is you would create a Bible. You would take your characters, you would outline your characters, you would outline what would possibly happen to them, and then you would do, I'd outline like the first 5 or 10 minutes, if you could get somebody to write that or storyboard that for you. The young kids books, they're complicated. It's so hard to turn those things into anything more than a short, because they're usually about one thing.
Yeah.
And there are no multiple storylines going on, but it's such a cute character and you totally love it and you think it's great. So what you if you take everything about it, you could squeeze it down maybe into a short. And then if you could get that made, which would be a whole lot easier than getting a series made in some places, if you could get that storyboarded out and made, there's a really good chance you could do what Hair Love did. Either get a series after that, or then get people to talk about other things. A series would probably be the best, because there aren't the kids stuff just doesn't have the complexity of multiple storylines. It's usually a lot more simpler than that. It's like Poco Ono, it's like Pocoyo. It's like really simple. He wants to get this thing, he laughs, it's done.
Yeah.
I saw the world become very 3D computer animated, right? So unless you were in Japan or some other cultures that, where the 2D world was still going, unless you worked with Hayao Miyazaki, the odds are is that the feature films you made were 3D, right? 3Ds take a long time to make and they're very expensive. And that was okay when they had theaters to release them in, because kids will go see movies again and again, animated movies again and again and again. And then they go on streaming and then they see it again and again and again. Right. So, but if you cut out the theaters, I don't know if studios can afford to make $150 million film, right? The Incredibles was, I think, over $300 million, and and that's
Sheesh.
a lot of money.
A
That
lot of
how do
money.
you? That's and you get it because it takes years to make it, and then
Yeah.
if you don't like the story, you're redoing stuff, and you totally get how it could be really expensive, but really, do you really need to do that? So what I'm doing, and we're playing with, is a little bit of what happened in Peanuts,
Okay.
slightly differently, which is, like we're making 3D characters, and then we're really utilizing matte paintings and flattening the backgrounds, right? So you have the because the art has come so far and computers have come so far, creating the characters in that world, even though it's time consuming, if you're creating a series, you could amortize those costs way down the road, right? So even though you're creating a character and that's very costly, it'll work out for you. And then you don't have to keep redrawing it, and you've got it, and you're really good. But if you're doing every single freaking environment and every single prop that they come in contact with and all that kind of stuff, it becomes really expensive and really costly. But if you could flatten it, and you could do only key things in the foreground,
Mm-hmm.
and flatten the background, you start to limit the price of, or reduce the price of what you're trying to do without really diminishing the quality. And if all that's going to happen is you're going to stream, then I'm really sorry, but you don't need that kind of quality. It's great to have it, and there are people who are really talented, and I don't want to take it away from them. And I hope the studio will still be able to afford those key films that they get to, really highlight and showcase people's talents. But
Yeah.
for the rest of us who want to tell stories and just want to do the best we can and then move on to the next thing, you got to make it the best for a price. And making it for a price is going to mean we got to get creative. One project that it's a TV series right now, and I will tell you, they came to me, and every single character was, suburban, and it starts right there, right? I turned around and I said, if you want me to work on it, you have to diversify these people. We got to change this up, and they went back and they came back and they're doing that. And the one's live action and one's animation, and they, to their credit, they did the research. One of their characters is now Aboriginal, and it's wonderful. It's really wonderful to see people not just say, oh yeah, we're just going to change this one character, but they actually change the storyline so it suited that character and it supported that character being Aboriginal. And then the live action one, we changed it up, even though it's a history piece, and it makes no sense that the people in this place in history were diverse, but I don't care. I really don't care. We're gonna diversify everything, and then everybody's gonna think that that's the way history happened. So who cares? I left, as I said, I left post production and decided I would go into production. And so, you go from being an editor to being a PA. And I will tell you that the best time to do these things is when you're young, because it's great to get, you can imagine an editor made a decent salary, right? So I'm going from making a decent salary to making $175 a week, right? So I couldn't even pay my gas. I mean, it was really horrible. And when you're a PA on a set, it's not like you could take another job and figure out how to pay bills. So it was a touch and go period for me. But I decided if I was ever going to make a leap, I had to make it when money mattered less. And so I made that choice. And then I was a PA, and then I was an AD. You work your way up the AD ranks, and then the opportunity came to produce something, and it was a couple of people who got together and they wanted to make an indie film for almost no money in Europe. And that was my first jump at making a film. And it was a film called Mind Walk. And Mind Walk there was a film that had come out called My Dinner with Andre. And My Dinner with Andre was an existential conversation of two guys at dinner, literally for 2 hours. That's all they did, was they were at one dinner for 2 hours. But the conversation was so great. And it was such a great conversation that it sparked, a real new way of thinking. So when we made Mind Walk, we were on the tail end of that. This was a conversation between Liv Ullmann, Sam Waterston, and John Hurd during the course of a day. And Liv Ullmann played the part of a physicist, John Hurd was a poet, and Sam Waterston was a politician. And what they discussed was essentially the problems we have today, only, what was that, 25 years ago. And it was groundbreaking. It was the quantum physics had just come out. People were just talking about quantum physics. And so to make that digestible for people and to make people understand that we are all interconnected, that everything we do affects everyone, was a conversation I felt really passionate about starting. I felt it was really important for people to start thinking about how they fit in the world relative to everybody else in the world, rather than just, where they are. You try something that you didn't think would work, and then it suddenly works. And, I'm getting goosebumps, because that's really what makes your day. You said, oh, I'm just going to do this and see what happens. And then it ends up being the greatest thing you ever did in your entire life. And you're like, oh my God, that is so good.
Yes.
That is so good.
Yes.
And that is what I'd love to create for people to do, because that I believe is my job. My job is to create the environment where you can feel free to fail, you can feel free to succeed, and then we all succeed as a team. Like, if you've never made a movie before and you decide, I'm going to go make a movie and I'm going to borrow all my family's money and I'm going to go out and make this thing, and it virtually is unwatchable, nobody's going to give you any more money.
Yeah.
It's like, who the hell wants to do that? I don't care who you are. Nobody's going to give you any more money. But if you start out and you say, okay, I want to make movies, I need to learn how to tell a story. So you take your iPhone and you start making little stories and you put them on TikTok. And then you start making little longer stories and you put them on YouTube. And then when you finally get how to tell a story a little, and you go from 2 minutes to 5 minutes to 20 minutes to 30 minutes to an hour and a half, you don't fail. You may make something that people may not like, but it'll be watchable, because you'll have the skills to how to do it. And that's the piece that people aren't willing to, I shouldn't say people aren't willing, that's the part of developing your craft that often people wish would happen faster, right? But you really have to spend the time. You have to master your craft in the same way that a shoemaker masters his craft, or even a London cab driver masters his craft. Everybody has to master their craft. And when you do that, the leaps you make are just more within the ropes of what you're trying to do. And they're not failures. They're just, I could see what you're trying to do. It just, didn't work that time. So it's okay to try again. Totally. You go 9 months without finding a job and you start to question every life choice you've ever made. I'm telling you, it's hard. And then and I'm also not a politics kind of person. So, I've been in situations where politics prevailed, and I really question, why the heck am I doing this? I really, why do I do this? And then I see a movie. Then I see something really good. Then I bump into someone and talk to someone who's passionate about, the stories they tell and where they go and how they represent that to the world. And I go, my heart grows. I'm like, yeah, that's me. I feel that, right? So what I've realized is that it's really difficult to make it by yourself, because everybody hits those moments that are dry and you can't make it and whatever. And you You really have to build, and and people say this, like Entourage, he's one actor, but he's got like 15 friends around him. I mean, it's really true. Everybody needs a team around them. And you all try to go through this business together. And there may be one year that one person does better than the other, and he picks up the others and brings them along, and then the other. But you can't do it by yourself, because it's not going to be worth it if you do it by yourself. Nobody's going to have your back if you do it by yourself. So do it in a team, do it with a group of people, help each other out, give script notes. Even when you're tired and you haven't got the time, do a bunch of things for free just to help out friends. And then you all make it,
Yep.
you all get there. And that will be so much more rewarding for you than you making it. I don't care where you make it to. You get to the college, and I won't name the colleges, but I had the dean come up to me of one college, and she was so proud of how diverse her student body was. And her definition of diverse was 50% female.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah. This is how off mark people are about what diversity means, right?
Yeah.
So she was, and I commend her, because it's not easy finding women to go into this thing either. So I commended her for that, but I was just like, you still need, we need some people of color. What's happening here, right? So she started to explain to me how there just aren't those students applying, So then I realized, okay, so we got to step back from college, and so I started looking at local high schools around the Blue Sky area, where Blue Sky was located, and I identified one, and I started working with that one first. I'm not going to name any of these high schools because it's not a good thing. But so the first one I started with, I'm offering everything. I was offering the teachers to come. I gave them computers. I did all sorts of stuff, and I still couldn't get them on board. I was fighting with the superintendent. I was fighting with the what do they call him? Not superintendent. Yeah, superintendent. I was fighting with him. I was fighting with the teachers. I was fighting, and I'm like, what does it take to give somebody something for free?
Yeah.
So that was just, I walked away, and then from that school, and then I went to another school, and the superintendent there was much more on board, and that started to go off. And we actually had a curriculum plan that was starting in September. And I had the teachers in Blue Sky all identified. We knew exactly what we were going to do for a year, and we were going to do it starting in 8th grade, so that by the time they got to their senior year, they would have something they could present in their portfolio and hopefully get a scholarship, blah, 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 blah. And I got laid off. So I'm praying that that is still going on. I have no idea if it is, but that is what it takes. That kind of, and everybody at Blue Sky, I shouldn't say everybody, but there was a large portion of people at Blue Sky who were tremendously behind this, who went, the IT department put together the computers for them, completely reconfigured them, wiped them, because we go through computers a lot. So we had a lot of extra equipment hanging around. We got it ready. We got it over to them. IT, teachers, departments, even production managers got on board, because there was a lot of scheduling that needed to be happening, and getting people. It was just amazing to watch, and it was amazing to watch how much it meant to everybody who participated. I've seen interest flail up and die, right? I've seen where they said, we're going to hire more women, and I was the only female in a conference room for easily over a decade and a half. There were many production sets. I was other than makeup and hair and wardrobe, I was the only female, right? And then we're not even layering on diversity, right? So it's just, unless you were shooting somewhere and hiring locally, all the key positions were, friends of friends, and ended up being, almost completely all male and all white.
Yeah.
So it's like, that's the world I grew up in. So I would love it if that changed. I would love if that needle moved, whatever it could move, it would be great. If it made huge leaps, that would be great. I'm just realistic about it because, again, like I said before, if nobody is mentoring that person, if nobody is actually showing that person how to succeed in these new jobs that they're getting, all that's going to happen is somebody's going to sit back and go, hey, see, I told you they weren't ready,
Yep.
you
Yep.
know? And then you're like, what are you talking about? Who's talking to them? Who's telling them what to do? Who's telling them how to do it? Who's telling them what's the best way to do it, you know? And so this is what I'm saying. It could be great if people did that, right? But that's like winning the freaking lottery. What really would work is if you made the teams, you got together with your friends, you created some unbelievably great content, and then you made your own road. You paved your own road. They'll make it easier for that road to get seen now, but do it with your friends, because your friends will watch your back. Your friends will help you make it. Your friends will, catch you when you fall. I mean, don't wait for somebody to give you an opportunity. Make your opportunity. Just use this opportunity to get there. This is the deal. You have to kind of figure out who are the people you want to be like, right? So say you're an artist, and everybody has the famous artists way up there that they're interested in, but there's a whole bunch of people who have styles that you think are cool, or have different things that you think are cool. Reach out to those people, compliment them on how they do their work, and ask them if they have any tips. And do that for real. Don't do it just so that you get a mentor, but do that for real, and then somebody will spark with you and take you on. I would go, except for the pandemic, I would go to, the conferences if you can, see who you can meet up with, talk there, go to panels, talk to the people after the panels, see if you go somewhere along the way, you will spark somebody. When you're not in the system, and I don't even consider myself in the system, when you're not in the system, it gets harder to find mentors, because it's not just a given. It's not somebody who's in front of you. So you kind of have to keep on the lookout of people who impress you, people who are doing what you want in the future, and talk to them. Even if you drop them a note 3 times a year and you say, hey, this is what I'm doing, what do you think, and get their thoughts. But if that's an artist, but if you're production management, there are shows that are really complicated. I guarantee you, if you reach out to those production management people and you say, that was so complicated, how did you guys handle that? They, even if all they do is write you back how they handled that, and you say, that is so great, can we have a cup of coffee or something? Some people will say no, but some people will say yes, and that's what you have to keep trying for. Just find somebody not 50 steps ahead of you, but just one step ahead of you, and then, figure that out.